Who do you know that needs to heal their broken brain? You've been listening to this all week, probably last week as well. And the reason why we're asking you that is because we have an important workshop coming up. It's coming up this Monday, August 16th at 6 o'clock. And it's going to be all about dealing with, or most importantly, preventing memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. So today, we're going to discuss the three biggest factors that accelerate memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So what are the three biggest factors that are causing this or actually accelerating it and making it worse? And it's important to understand this because by the time a person is diagnosed with these symptoms, the development has already been in the making for usually a decade or more. So by the time you have it, it's too late. So thank you for joining me today. We're going to discuss these very, very critical factors. And when it comes to understanding what's causing it and everything that you can do to avoid this terrible disease, it's affecting many, many, many people in our community, more people than I see more than ever now. Statistically, it's 1 out of 9 people over the age of 65. And then once you get over the age of 85, those statistics come down to 1 out of 2. So it's significant. And it's one of the leading disease killers every single year. And it's something that needs a lot of attention, especially when it comes to early intervention. That's why this workshop is so important. So the problem is that these causative factors that we're going to discuss today are ubiquitous and they're everywhere. They're all around us. And we're deeply immersed in this in our environment, in our current daily living. Some genetic factors are at play, and some of it is cultural, but most of that is a very small percentage of really what causes an individual to develop dementia and Alzheimer's. So when we look at our environment and we look at, cultural factors, yes, from foods and our traditions and things that we commonly do day after day after day, then, of course, we have to look at our environment, and that's important. But honestly, what epigeneticists are telling us today is that it's not your genes, it's your lifestyle. It's the environment that you're subjecting your genes to, which determines whether or not you're turning on these Alzheimer's genes, these brain disease genes on, or you're turning them off. And so we have to understand that now more than ever, we have the control for most of this at our fingertips. So we also have to look at our indoor environments, not just the internal environment that we're subjecting our DNA and our genes to, but our indoor environment inside of our home. Because toxically speaking, it's much more harmful to our health than our outdoor environment. And so I know the outdoor environment has had a lot of attention in the recent past, but the indoor environment is 5 to 10 times more toxic than our outdoor environments. So all of these factors perpetuate a ceaseless attack on normal cellular function, both in the body and the brain. And it's an insidious assault that continues silently, usually for a good decade or so. And as I said, then the day comes when the symptoms finally begin to emerge, rear their ugly head, and the disease is diagnosed. But by the time these symptoms come to the surface and become evident, it's far too late. It's already there. So whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever stage of life you're in, it's a really good idea to pay close attention to what we're about to cover now. So here are the three biggest factors that accelerate memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. Number 1, sugar. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, I stopped putting sugar in my coffee. I stopped adding sugar to my cereal. We're not just talking about white sugar, refined sugar. What I'm talking about is anything that turns to sugar and can drive glucose, that can drive insulin, and that affects your A1C. Sugar, high blood sugar triggers something called glycation, which, causes certain carbohydrates and proteins to become tangled together, and it causes tissues and cells to become stiff and inflexible, including those in the brain. And so researchers have looked at this for a long time through MRIs, and they've seen this. They've seen it in studies when you mix your carbohydrates and your proteins, and they found cognitive decline to be significantly higher in those elderly population and folks who load up their plates with carbohydrates, number one. Number two, researchers have also looked at MRIs to determine which lab tests correlated most specifically with brain atrophy, brain loss, brain degeneration. And they found that hemoglobin A1C demonstrated the most powerful relationship. Did you know that? When comparing the degree of brain tissue loss in those individuals with the lowest A1C to those having the highest A1C, the brain loss in the individuals with the highest A1C was almost double over a 6-year period. So the problem with the sugar is it also drives inflammation. So we're talking about carbohydrates, breads, pasta, rice, potato, cereals, and of course, white sugar. It drives inflammation at the surface of the cell, and it shuts down the cellular function and leads to inside the cell the turning on of the bad genes. Now, in previous video message in the previous episode, we talked about the APOE gene, which you have a predisposition and a higher risk. If you turn on that gene and you have promoting factors of that gene, you're at a much higher risk for developing Alzheimer's. But if you do things to mute that gene or shut off that gene, you're reducing your risk of that gene expressing itself. And what I'm saying is that sugar will influence the cell membrane in such a way where it will alter the function, because at the surface of the cell, good stuff has to get in, vitamins, minerals, and all of even the hormonal communication is at the surface of the cell. But with the inflammation occurring, it shuts down the cell function. And then all of a sudden now the good stuff can't get in, and then you have metabolic waste inside the cell that needs an exit and it can't get out. And so all of this creates a very destructive, damaging, dangerous internal environment, which affects the DNA in a bad way and actually turns on disease-promoting genes. So that's why sugar is so harmful. It sets the stage for sickness and disease to develop. So this is really, really important. So sugar is one of those things that destroys the integrity of the surface of the cell, drives inflammation, and actually leads to damage and toxicity at that level. Another factor besides sugar is bad fats, specifically trans fats like margarine and butter, synthetic butters, all those butters which they try to eliminate the saturated fats to prevent heart disease. And it turns out the margarine and the synthetic butters are causing heart disease because they're driving inflammation. Hydrogenated oils, polyunsaturated fats, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, these type of vegetable oils like corn oil, canola oil, all cause inflammation at the surface of the cell, and it also causes inflammation of your brain. And brain inflammation turns into brain degeneration. So we're going to talk more about this at the workshop. This is really, really important because I can guarantee you that if you open up your pantry or your refrigerator, you're going to find some of these things, maybe a lot of it in there. And again, you may not be experiencing memory loss now or dementia or Alzheimer's, thankfully, but the question becomes, is that developing, silently developing, insidiously developing inside of your body, your cells? And if so, wouldn't you want to stop it dead in its tracks and reverse it? When's the best time to do that? Obviously, before it's too late. So you need to know what to be on the lookout for. And unfortunately, if you don't know what you don't know, it's very difficult to be proactive with this. And again, that's why we are hosting this workshop so that we can give you all the answers. In addition to sugar and bad fats, there's another culprit that causes inflammation, and that's toxins. Particularly, there's a lot of toxins, obviously, in our internal environment, which we're going to cover at the workshop. But particularly, we find the most damaging toxins, which lead to brain degeneration, are metals like aluminum, lead, and mercury. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, I've never been in contact with that. I don't have any of that. But you would be amazingly surprised at how not only it's hereditary and it gets passed down in utero from previous environments that our previous generations have been exposed to, but also so many of the things that lurk in our household and our internal environment, in addition to some of the things that were done to us as younger individuals, unknowingly, namely immunizations and things of that, and fillings and things of that nature. So I wanted to mention that, particularly metals, but the other part of that is the pesticides. And we're all aware of the pesticides and how harmful they are. But in particular, one pesticide called glyphosate has shown to have the most damage, causing early death by way of senile dementia. And this is what they put pretty much on all corn and soy products. In the late 80s, there was a study that they began and ran for 20 years. And it showed a nearly 100% identical correlation with the number of annual deaths from senile dementia and the application of glyphosate used on corn and soy. So in complete correlation, the number of people that died, hundreds of thousands of people from senile dementia, exactly matched the increase in the amount of glyphosate they used as pesticide on corn and soy. And what do they use corn and soy for today? Almost everything, and almost all of our products that we purchase, and it comes through the food chain in many other hidden ways. So again, this is insidiously, like a Trojan horse, making its way into our body, our cells, and our brain. Very, very serious, very dangerous, and is one of the main reasons why our number of cases of dementia and Alzheimer's are creeping up year after year. So all these three components that I just talked to, the major factors that drive inflammation in the brain and body, they cause and contribute to brain degeneration. And again, all recognizable and leading to the form of memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. And these are all things that we're doing, all of us, at some level, some more than others. So it's something that needs to be reckoned with. I'm urging you to take action now, and now more than ever, it's so important. And we've been in prayer for many people who have contracted COVID lately, and some of them have been unvaccinated, and many of them have been vaccinated. So that's not really the issue. The issue is that, from what I've seen, the people who are most at risk, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you're not in the clear if you're vaccinated. That doesn't mean that you can't get COVID or any other disease. But when you look at all the people, the vast majority, if not nearly all of them that I've seen or heard of or been praying for, that have contracted the disease, that have been sick at home or hospitalized or in critical condition, they all have the same thing in common. They all have poor health. They're either overweight, diabetic, high blood pressure, heart disease, upper respiratory conditions, diabetes. So how much more obvious could it be of correcting the cause? When you get sick, when you get COVID, a flu, or an infection, that's not a causative factor. That's an opportunistic vector. A bacteria and a virus is an opportunist on the weakest host. The strong hosts, the people with the strongest health, may have COVID, but they don't have the symptoms. They merely pass along the virus particles, just as many of the vaccinated people are doing now. As they're vaccinated or unvaccinated, The people who have strong immune systems don't express the symptoms. They're not symptomatic. They just pass it along. And that's how an individual becomes well suited to their environment. Bacteria, viruses, germs, they'll never go away. A vaccine will never solve the world's problems, not today, not 100 years ago, not in the future, because that's the effect that we're trying to solve. It's you don't solve effects, you solve causes. And what is the cause? Correcting the cause means looking at your health. What can you do to strengthen the inner constitution of your health? And the stronger your health is, the less likely you are going to run into a problem, whether it's COVID-19 or the Delta variant or the Lambda variant or the Doomsday variant, which you'll be reading about soon. So we need to wake up and just give attention to the truth. And the truth is, it's not the virus, it's not the bacteria, it's not the seed, it's the soil. And what that means is that your body has to be a ripe host to have a health problem. And if you're working on your health, if you're building your health, if you're doing all of these things that we teach you to do in the office and the lifestyle, your risk of these problems continues to get lower and lower and lower, and your health get stronger and stronger and stronger. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So that's the solution. Learn not only specifically which brain damaging foods and toxins to avoid that we've been talking about, but also what to safely and wisely choose instead. How do you apply all of that I'm talking about on a microscopic level? How do we peel back the layers on this? You'll be amazed to discover what's silently lurking in your pantry, ready to rob you of your future health. And also, it's important to learn which brain damaging toxins are the most prevalent in your home, and how to not just eliminate them from your indoor environment, but also how to safely and effectively remove them from your brain and your body. So you'll learn all of this and so much more at our upcoming Healing Your Broken Brain workshop. It's coming up Monday, June 16th at 6 o'clock. So please make sure you get registered. Click the link below in the description box, or call the number on the banner that's moving across the screen. If we see that right now, there should be a banner moving across the screen. And let's see here. Yeah. So I just want to encourage you to join us. You're going to learn all of this, and how to increase your mental clarity, double your energy, learn disease-fighting nutritional strategies, and of course, most importantly, learn how to prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, and heart disease. All these things. So get your free tickets now by clicking the link below, or getting registered at the front desk. For your friends, family members, and loved ones. This will be a life-changing event. Don't miss this. It's going to be a game changer. So thank you for joining me today. I love and appreciate you. God bless.